During the late Cretaceous period, Earth experienced a transformative change as life flourished across the land, and nature demonstrated its complete design. From 100 million years to 66 million years ago, our planet became a grand spectacle of enormous creatures. But one creature ruled this particular area of the landscape, the legendary Tyrannosaurus rex. T-Rex is one of the greatest prehistoric terrors. It is so frightening and violent that it has become a fixed icon in the social imagination. It has even achieved Hollywood star status through the Jurassic Park film series. During the late Cretaceous period, T-Rex stood as the top predator, thanks to its enormous jaws and muscular structure, which established it as the symbol of absolute power. Among the vast stage of life, this enormous predator maintained its position as a solitary entity. The expansive nature of the environment defeated any attempt for a single species to establish complete dominance over its surroundings. In the realm of giants, multiple species are united into a complex web of existence, where each species finds its place while influencing evolutionary patterns. While T-Rex often steals the spotlight as the apex predator of the late Cretaceous, the truth is more complex. Across the same lands it roamed, other giants moved beings so immense, so unshakably dominant, that their presence changed the dynamic entirely. They didn't chase, they didn't roar, yet they didn't need to. Their size was overwhelming, their movements deliberate. Where T-Rex relied on bursts of power, these creatures operated with a different kind of authority, one rooted not in aggression, but in sheer, unignorable mass. Entire herds could alter the course of rivers. Their feeding patterns transformed forests, and their confidence wasn't born from weaponry. It came from the understanding that very little could touch them. But they weren't the only ones. Others roamed lower to the ground, smaller in stature, but no less dangerous. Built like tanks covered in armor, wielding bone, horn, and brute willpower, these were not easy targets. They didn't rely on speed or size, but on resilience. Their defenses were not passive. They were active deterrents. When confronted, they didn't flee. They held positions, and they made attackers regret the attempt. These weren't prey. They gave nightmares to Tyrannosaurus rex. Even with the advantage of speed, power, and precision, T-Rex was forced to choose its battles carefully. These giants weren't just difficult to kill, they were difficult to approach. The sheer mass of one could crush it. The impact of another's horn or tail could shatter bone. Sometimes, the hunter became the hunted, not because it was weaker, but because it dared to overreach. This was not a world where dominance was absolute. Here, power had limits. Even the most feared predator on the continent knew hesitation. It learned to watch, to wait, and sometimes to walk away. In the late Cretaceous era, survival belonged not just to the aggressive, but also to the unbreakable. And the unbreakable were everywhere. Tyrannosaurus rex received the nickname Tyrant Lizard King, while holding the top position among predators during the late Cretaceous period. The Tyrannosauridae family contained this specimen, which belonged to the Theropoda clade. Theropods were primarily bipedal carnivores, yet Tyrannosaurids developed unusually large skulls and extremely strong jaws. Scientific research indicates that T-Rex and other giant tyrannosaurians originated from ancestral genera, including Daspletosaurus, within a lineage that became the most dominant predator. Scientists, as well as enthusiasts, share a shared fascination with its dominant physicality. The enormous theropod dinosaur displayed multiple physical features and hunting techniques, which helped it maintain its position as a prehistoric apex predator. T-Rex achieved status as a giant predator through its size of 40 feet in length and its weight of nearly 9 tons. The dinosaur's enormous skull contained jaws that delivered 12,000 pounds of force per square inch, allowing it to break through bones effortlessly. The impressive bite force of T-Rex enabled it to extract rich bone marrow from deep inside prey remains, which proved essential for its position as a top carnivorous predator. Through its specialized teeth design, the dinosaur achieved superior predatory abilities. The serrated teeth of T-Rex operated as cutting tools because they measured about the length of a banana to break down large prey. The sensory abilities of T-Rex were remarkable in addition to its well-known powerful jaw muscles. Through its eyes facing forward, T-Rex achieved binocular vision, providing it with accurate depth perception to track prey effectively. The dinosaur's exceptional sense of smell, which is indicated by its large olfactory bulbs, enabled it to identify both living prey at a distance and detect dead animals. Despite its formidable attributes, T-Rex faced significant challenges when hunting massive and well-armored herbivores such as Triceratops and Ankylosaurus. These dinosaurs had evolved robust defenses. Triceratops with its massive frill and 3 sharp horns, Ankylosaurus with its bony armor and clubbed tail, making confrontation risky. To overcome these challenges, T-Rex likely used a variety of hunting strategies. Though not built for long chases, its muscular hind limbs enabled short bursts of speed, ideal for ambush attacks. It may have relied on camouflage, remaining hidden in dense vegetation before launching surprise strikes at the right moment. Its keen eyesight and strong sense of smell would have helped it detect vulnerable members of a herd, juveniles, the elderly, or the injured, making them easier and safer to pursue. This type of selective targeting is commonly observed in modern apex predators and likely contributed to T-Rex's hunting efficiency. Tyrannosaurus rex didn't hunt with chaos. It hunted with intent. Its strength was apparent: jaws that could crush bone, teeth that could tear through flesh like paper. But brute force alone wasn't enough in a world filled with giants. So T-Rex hunted with patience, with precision. When facing large herbivores, especially those with armor, horns, or heavy tails, T-Rex couldn't afford mistakes. It didn't charge head-on. It stalked from the edge, waited for separation. It targeted the young, the weak, the distracted, and the moments when a single mistake from the prey opened the door for attack. Speed was never its advantage over long distances, but in short bursts, T-Rex could move like a battering ram, explosive, fast, and violent. One bite could be fatal, but if it missed, it had to retreat, regroup, and then try again. Against creatures like Triceratops or Ankylosaurus, even a single misstep could mean injury or death. A horn to the chest, a tail to the leg. And yet, T-Rex hunted them anyway. Not always, not recklessly. But when the odds tilted just enough in its favor, it struck. It didn't rely on luck. It relied on instinct, timing, and knowing exactly when to move. Because in the late Cretaceous, even the king had to fight smarter. Among the diverse array of dinosaurs that once roamed the Earth, Ankylosaurus stands out as one of the most unique and well-protected creatures. Nicknamed the Armored Tank, this herbivorous dinosaur was built to withstand attacks from even the fiercest predators. Some scientists refer to it as a bent lizard or great belly due to its unique characteristics. Ankylosaurus was a medium to large dinosaur, measuring about 6 to 8 meters, 20 to 26 feet, in length and weighing up to 4 tons. It had a broad, low-slung body resembling a living fortress. Its most distinguishing feature was its armor. Thick, bony plates embedded in its skin known as osteoderms or scuties. These provided exceptional protection against predators. The Ankylosaurus also possessed a powerful tail tipped with a bony club. This tail club was its primary weapon, capable of delivering bone-crushing blows to attackers. Coupled with its sturdy build and low center of gravity, this dinosaur was virtually impervious to most threats. As a herbivore, Ankylosaurus fed primarily on low-lying vegetation, including ferns and cycads. Its broad, beak-like mouth was ideal for stripping leaves off plants, while its small teeth helped chew the fibrous material. Though Ankylosaurus was not built for speed, its formidable armor meant it could graze safely even in regions frequented by predators. Ankylosaurus belonged to the Ankylosauridae family, a group of heavily armored dinosaurs. Within the larger Ornithischia clade, these dinosaurs were part of the Thyreophora subgroup, which also included Stegosaurus. Ankylosaurs evolved their iconic armor and tail clubs as defensive adaptations, making them some of the most well-armored creatures in prehistoric times. Interestingly, ankylosaurids were diverse, with various genera exhibiting different features. For example, Euoplocephalus, another well-known member of this family, shared similar traits but was slightly smaller than Ankylosaurus. While the T-Rex was the apex carnivore of its time, Ankylosaurus was far from defenseless. Keep in mind that Ankylosaurus is a very wide animal, which means that trying to bite its torso would be incredibly difficult. In fact, it was one of the few dinosaurs that could potentially kill a T-Rex. Ankylosaurus's thick osteoderms made its body almost impenetrable. Even T-Rex's formidable bite might struggle to inflict significant damage on this living fortress. The Ankylosaurus's tail ended in a heavy, bony club designed for defense. With a swift and precise swing, Ankylosaurus could shatter the bones of any predator, including the mighty T-Rex. A well-aimed blow to the leg or jaw could incapacitate or even kill its opponent. Ankylosaurus's broad, low-slung body made it difficult for taller predators to reach its vulnerable areas, ensuring that it remained protected during a fight. In a battle scenario, Ankylosaurus's clubbed tail would likely be its greatest weapon. One solid strike could break T-Rex's leg bones, leaving the predator immobile and vulnerable. For T-Rex to win, it would need to avoid the Ankylosaurus's tail while finding an opportunity to strike at vulnerable spots. This would require cunning and persistence. While T-Rex's offensive capabilities make it a formidable predator, Ankylosaurus's defense was specifically designed to counter attacks from carnivores. In many scenarios, Ankylosaurus could hold its own and even kill a T-Rex, particularly if the predator underestimated its armored adversary. This clash between predator and prey epitomizes the incredible adaptability of dinosaurs during the Cretaceous period. The Giganotosaurus, whose name aptly translates to giant southern lizard, was one of the largest carnivorous dinosaurs to have ever roamed the Earth. Discovered in modern-day Argentina, this formidable predator thrived during the late Cretaceous period, around 97 million years ago. Giganotosaurus was a titan among dinosaurs. Measuring approximately 12 to 13 meters, or 40 to 43 feet in length, and weighing up to 8 tons, it rivaled even the infamous Tyrannosaurus rex in terms of size. Its skull alone could stretch up to 1.8 meters long. housing powerful jaws filled with serrated teeth designed for slicing flesh. Unlike the T-Rex's robust and deep skull, the Giganotosaurus had a narrower, lighter structure, indicating adaptations for swift and efficient predation. Its strong hind limbs were built for speed, allowing it to reach estimated speeds of 50 kilometers per hour. Coupled with a long, muscular tail for balance, this dinosaur was not just a brute, but also an agile hunter. Its forelimbs, while relatively small compared to its overall body size, were equipped with 3 sharp claws that could have been used to grip prey. As an apex predator, Giganotosaurus likely targeted large herbivorous dinosaurs like Argentinosaurus, which were massive sauropods. It's believed that Giganotosaurus may have hunted in packs, a theory supported by fossil evidence suggesting coordinated attacks on prey too large for a single predator to take down alone. Using its powerful jaws and sharp teeth, the Giganotosaurus could inflict deep wounds, weakening its prey through blood loss and exhaustion. Its agility and speed would have further given it an edge in pursuing or ambushing prey. The predator's strategy was likely a blend of brute force and calculated teamwork. Giganotosaurus belonged to the Carcharodontosauridae family, which included other giant predators like Carcharodontosaurus and Mapusaurus. This family is part of the larger Theropoda group, a clade of bipedal carnivorous dinosaurs. Interestingly, theropods are also the ancestors of modern birds, showcasing the evolutionary journey from prehistoric giants to the feathered creatures we see today. Within its family, Giganotosaurus is often compared to its close relative, Mapusaurus, which shared similar physical traits and lived in the same region. This connection underscores the diversity and adaptability of the Carcharodontosaurids during the Cretaceous period. But what would happen when T-Rex and Giganotosaurus fights 1 versus 1? The T-Rex's advantages were clear and commanding. With a bite force estimated at over 12,800 pounds per square inch, the T-Rex had one of the most powerful jaws in the animal kingdom. Its massive, banana-shaped teeth were designed to crush bones, giving it an edge in dealing crippling damage to any opponent. Compared to Giganotosaurus, the T-Rex had a stockier and more muscular frame, making it a tank-like predator that could endure heavy blows. The T-Rex's highly developed sense of smell and vision meant it was an efficient tracker, capable of responding quickly to threats or opportunities during a fight. In a head-to-head match, the sheer power of T-Rex's bite could likely overcome even Giganotosaurus's larger size. One crushing bite to a vital area, such as the neck or spine, might have ended the encounter swiftly. While T-Rex's dominance seems indisputable, Giganotosaurus also boasted significant traits that could tip the scales in certain scenarios. Some Giganotosaurus specimens could grow larger than individual T-Rex specimens, with lengths exceeding 13 meters. In cases where size favored Giganotosaurus, its weight and reach advantage might overpower a smaller T-Rex. Giganotosaurus is thought to have been faster than T-Rex. This agility could help it outmaneuver its opponent in combat. Unlike the T-Rex's tiny arms, Giganotosaurus had larger, clawed forelimbs that could inflict serious slashes if it got close enough. A larger, faster Giganotosaurus might have been able to avoid the T-Rex's crushing bite and deliver a series of lethal blows with its teeth and claws. Such an encounter would rely on speed and strategy rather than raw power. In most scenarios, T-Rex's unmatched bite force and brute strength would give it a significant advantage. However, it would be a mistake to underestimate the Giganotosaurus. Some larger specimens might have turned the tide of battle, overpowering or even fatally injuring the T-Rex through agility and sheer physical bulk. Ultimately, This hypothetical battle showcases the diversity of nature's predators during the age of dinosaurs. These ancient creatures continue to capture our imaginations, reminding us of the raw power that once ruled the Earth. The gentle giant evolved as a perfect answer to its time, a living solution to an ecosystem that assigned purpose to everything it nurtured. In this delicate natural balance, its colossal size wasn't just impressive, it was necessary. This was Alamosaurus, a massive sauropod part of the Titanosauria group within the Sauropodomorpha clade. Titanosaurs were the last surviving long-necked dinosaurs, characterized by their enormous size and widespread distribution. Alamosaurus, in particular, marked the return of sauropods to North America after a period known as the sauropod hiatus, potentially migrating from South America or Asia. Alamosaurus wasn't born to fight. It was built to endure. It didn't roar to claim territory. It simply moved, and the landscape shifted around it. In the wild areas of the late Cretaceous, where survival often belonged to the swift or the armored, this creature played a different game. It didn't rely on speed or strength to conquer. It depended on mass, patience, and adaptation. It stood as one of the last and largest sauropods to ever set foot on what we now call North America. Stretching over 30 meters in length and weighing more than 40 tons, it was as long as a jetliner and as heavy as a freight train. Its neck, towering above the treetops, it was a powerful, flexible, and long enough to cover vast feeding ranges without expending much energy. In an environment where vegetation could be scattered and inconsistent, this reach wasn't a luxury. It was survival. Alamosaurus could graze across vast territories with minimal movement, allowing it to conserve energy and remain protected in the open. That kind of efficiency was everything in an age where even a tiny miscalculation could mean death. The climate it lived in was no gentle cradle. The late Cretaceous was hot, humid, and harsh. Heat radiated off the ground. The air was thick with moisture. And yet, Alamosaurus thrived. Its height may have offered more than just a feeding advantage. It helped with cooling. Raised above the sweltering earth, its head caught breezes others couldn't feel. That towering body spread across an enormous surface area likely dissipated heat more effectively than smaller-bodied species. But being tall didn't mean being vulnerable. Alamosaurus had few defenses in the conventional sense. No claws, no horns, no armored plates. But it had something far more intimidating: mass. A tail thick with muscle, strong enough to sweep predators from the ground like twigs. Limbs like columns of stone, capable of flattening anything foolish enough to challenge it head-on. And that bulk, that sheer scale, was often sufficient to deter confrontation entirely. Most predators kept their distance. Even the most notorious among them, the ones with bone-crushing jaws and relentless pursuit, thought twice. For them, taking on Alamosaurus wasn't a hunt. It was a risk. A misstep could mean being trampled under 50 tons of resistance. Its movement was not hurried. Every step was measured. Its limbs, structured with weight-bearing precision, allowed it to cross uneven terrain without faltering. Its spine, braced like a suspension bridge, bore the constant weight of its enormity with the perfect distribution. Every inch of this creature was engineered for endurance. And while it may have moved alone, there's reason to believe it didn't always walk in silence. In loosely gathered groups, these giants would have become a wall of moving muscle, a living barrier. Any predator facing them wasn't looking at prey. It was staring down a problem too big to solve. In a world ruled by tooth and claw, Alamosaurus thrived through something rarer: stillness. It was the giant that didn't have to fight, because it had already won. In the vast wilderness of the late Cretaceous, every step came with risk, even for the apex predator. There are battles, and then there are events, moments so rare, so colossal, that the land itself would seem to pause and listen. When Tyrannosaurus Rex and Alamosaurus crossed paths, it was never a simple act of predator and prey. T-Rex may have been the apex predator of its realm, but Alamosaurus was the immovable object, a creature that didn't rely on speed or teeth, but on presence, on a sheer, undeniable scale. And that's what made the encounter so dangerous. A full-grown Alamosaurus weighed more than 40 tons, 10 times the mass of the predator that stalked it. It didn't need claws, it didn't need horns. Its defense was its body. Towering limbs like pillars, a sweeping tail strong enough to send a threat flying, and a frame so large that its organs were tucked out of reach for anything on the ground. For T-Rex, bringing this giant down wasn't a matter of strength. It was a matter of strategy. The predator wouldn't attack a healthy adult head-on. That was a death sentence. Instead, it would stalk from a distance, watching, waiting, looking for signs of weakness. Was one lagging behind the herd? Was a juvenile exposed? Did one slow its pace too long at a water source? Only then would the predator move. It would strike low, consistently low, aiming for the back legs or base of the tail, where the skin thinned and balance was vital. One well-placed bite could stagger the giant. Two might send it into a panic. And panic, for an animal that size, was dangerous. Not just for Alamosaurus, but for everything around it. Because once the giant began to move in defense, the ground became a hazard. The swinging tail, thick with muscle, could break limbs with a single strike. A single backward kick could send a predator rolling, and if the sauropod fell, it didn't fall lightly. But T-Rex didn't press all at once. It was a patient killer. It would strike, retreat, circle, bite again, bleed the target down, exhaust it. The fight wasn't won in the first charge, it was won in the wear-down, the breakdown. Even so, the cost of a mistake was enormous. If Alamosaurus turned its entire mass into defense, the predator had to be faster, smarter, always one step ahead. Because being caught beneath a staggering foot, or being struck by a tail in full swing, meant broken bones, torn muscle, and a very real possibility of death. And that's what made this clash so rare. T-Rex didn't rely on blind courage. It hunted with logic, with understanding, and Alamosaurus, despite its plant-eating diet, was not helpless. It was a wall, one that predators approached with fear, not confidence. But hunger changes everything. Drought, injury, isolation. When the stakes were high enough and the opening wide enough, the king would roll the dice. Sometimes the gamble paid off, and the land bore witness to the slow fall of a giant. Other times, the giant stood its ground, and the king retreated, beaten, bloodied, but alive. Because this wasn't a battle between predator and prey, it was a contest between power and mass, strategy and defense, precision and presence. And when those two forces collided, the victor wasn't always the one who struck first. It was the one who walked away. And in that silent standoff between tooth and scale, between risk and survival, only one would walk away. While Alamosaurus moved with the quiet certainty of a mountain, Another herbivore took a very different path, one of armor, power, and confrontation. This was a creature designed not to avoid danger, but to meet it head-on. While some survived through scale, others survived by standing their ground. And this herbivore was one of them. With one of the largest skulls of any land animal to ever walk the earth, Triceratops was a symbol of balance between brute strength and evolutionary precision. Renowned for its 3 horns and large frill, Triceratops belonged to the Ceratopsidae family, within the Ornithischia order. Ornithischians were primarily herbivorous dinosaurs with a unique pelvic structure. Triceratops was among the last and largest ceratopsians, exemplifying the group's evolutionary trend toward elaborate cranial ornamentation and robust body forms. Some of these skulls stretched over 2.5 meters in length, broad, solid, and unmistakably built for business. Atop its head sat 2 massive brow horns, curved and forward-pointing, paired with a smaller horn above the nose. Behind them, a vast, bony frill framed the face like a shield, a structure both impressive and functional. Triceratops defended itself through both intimidation tactics and its physical features. The impressive horns served an essential defensive purpose. These prehistoric animals employed their horns to protect themselves against predators, fight rivals, and possibly signal strength, status, or readiness to mate. These characteristics displayed by Triceratops resembled modern deer antlers because they performed different functions based on seasonal changes and the presence of threats or other animals. The picture of these dinosaurs in battle creates an easy mental image of their horns clashing in violent dominance displays, which produce resounding thuds throughout the plains. Their bodies were designed for low muscular structures. But Triceratops was more than just a solitary titan. While adults may have lived independently, younger individuals likely moved in groups, forming seasonal herds for safety and migration. In numbers, they were nearly untouchable. These juvenile gatherings served a purpose: protection, shared grazing paths, and perhaps even early lessons in survival. In a world where danger could come from any direction, moving together offered a level of security no horn or frill could provide alone. Their habitats were diverse: floodplains, river valleys, and dry grasslands. In each, Triceratops carved out its role. Its powerful beak and complex dental batteries allowed it to grind through the tough, fibrous plants of the age. Ferns, cycads, and early flowering vegetation. It was a walking engine of digestion, shaping the landscape with every bite, maintaining the balance of the ecosystem with quiet determination. And when predators lurked, especially the infamous Tyrannosaurus rex, Triceratops did not flee without a fight. It could pivot, lower its head, and turn its skull into a wall of bone and horn. Even the apex predator had to calculate its chances, because what looked like prey often fought back. And for Tyrannosaurus rex, this wasn't just another target in the food chain. It was a gamble. Triceratops stood its ground when others ran. In doing so, it forced the apex predator to pause and reconsider. The sharp horns weren't just deterrents. They were weapons capable of piercing deep into muscle and bone. One misstep, one poorly timed charge, and the hunter could find itself skewered beneath the weight of its own mistake. For T. rex, a confrontation with this creature wasn't always a feast. It was a test, and sometimes it failed. There are few things that could make even the mightiest predator hesitate. Triceratops was one of them. But not every wound came from enemies. Rival Triceratops may have clashed during breeding seasons or over territory, tests of strength that helped determine hierarchy. and leadership within herds. Differences in horn length, frill shape, and overall size might have signaled age, health, or dominance. Visual cues in a world where survival meant being seen and understood without a sound. Triceratops was a communicator, a strategist, a keystone in a complex ecosystem of titans. Its physical features weren't isolated adaptations, but instruments in a social system where status, safety, and survival were all intertwined. To face one Triceratops was to face more than muscle and horn. It was to face intelligence, resilience, and the weight of an ancient design that had been refined by pressure, generation after generation. When these two titans met, it chaos. It was a deadly dance of strength, strategy, and survival. For the predator, it always began with approach. T-Rex didn't waste energy on reckless charges. It watched, measured, waited for the right angle. A sudden movement, a hesitation, a gap in formation. Triceratops rarely traveled alone, but when one broke off, strayed to drink, or wandered from the edge of the herd, the game began. Closing the distance was crucial. The longer the gap, the more time Triceratops had to turn to prepare to face the threat head-on. So T-Rex moved in bursts, short, violent sprints fueled by massive legs, enough to catch the unwary off guard. But Triceratops wasn't built for panic. It didn't flee. It faced its problems. The moment it spotted its attacker, it would shift, head low, horns forward, legs wide. Its eyes on either side of its skull gave it a wide field of view, perfect for spotting movement. And once its stance was set, it became something else entirely, a blockade. For T-Rex, this changed everything. A frontal assault was suicide. Two brow horns over 3 feet long could gut a predator in a single strike. A full charge from Triceratops, head lowered and shoulders driving forward, could break bones. The frill, often mistaken as passive armor, served as a solid anchor point for neck muscles, letting the animal throw its entire head like a battering ram. So, the predator adjusted. It circled, tested, looked for the blind side, tried to move behind the body, where no horns could reach. It aimed for the legs, the tail, the soft places behind the ribs. But Triceratops wasn't slow to respond. Its low center of gravity made it harder to topple. Its ability to pivot quickly made it challenging to flank. It could spin, thrust, and block faster than most large herbivores. When the clash finally came, it was brutal. T-Rex went for the neck, jaws wide, aiming to crush windpipe or arteries. Triceratops countered with lunges, short, sudden horn thrusts meant to gouge or drive the predator back. The two collided with the force of moving machines, shaking the ground with each strike and dodge. These duels were rarely quick. Blood was spilled, but not invariably fatal. Sometimes T-Rex bit and tore, only to retreat under a barrage of horn thrusts. Other times, Triceratops held its ground, then turned its flank and ran, not out of fear, but out of strategy. Survival was the goal. And sometimes, survival meant knowing when to disengage. But T-Rex didn't give up easily. If it sensed weakness, exhaustion, limping, or hesitation, it would re-engage. It would push again, force the fight back into motion. That was its edge, not just strength, but persistence. These battles were not guaranteed victories for either side. Sometimes the hunter limped away, empty-jawed. Sometimes the defender fell under the weight of repeated strikes. But more often than not, both walked away wounded. Because, in this ancient contest between horns and teeth, it wasn't always about who won. It was about who lasted. And in the dust and silence that followed, the earth remembered both. In the ancient world, where the sun beat down on primeval floodplains, and the air thickened with humidity and survival, the most powerful stories were never spoken. They were carved into bone, embedded into teeth, and sealed beneath the ground for millions of years. And long after the bodies decayed and the roars faded, those silent stories remained. These stories live in the fossil beds of North America, particularly in the rich layers of Montana, Wyoming, and the Dakotas. Here, scattered across time-worn sediment, paleontologists have unearthed the hardened traces of conflict. Not in full scenes, but in fragments. A horn with a notch, a femur gashed and scarred, a tail vertebra cracked, and healed. One of the most compelling discoveries is the pattern of bite marks on Triceratops skulls, specifically along the frill and jaw. These marks are no accident. They match the spacing, depth, and curvature of T-Rex teeth. Some are clean punctures, others, remarkably, show signs of healing. This means the Triceratops didn't just face a predator, it survived it, perhaps more than once. These weren't quick kills. They were battles, measured, brutal. In other instances, T-Rex teeth have been found lodged in bone, particularly the ribs and limb bones of its prey. These teeth, shed during feeding or combat, suggest a forceful bite, strong enough to snap the tooth clean off. But more than the attack itself, it's what came after that truly speaks. In several cases, the bone shows signs of healing around the embedded tooth, revealing that the animal lived through the assault. It walked on, carrying the memory in its bones. But the record of violence doesn't just exist on the hunted. T-Rex itself bears the scars of its dangerous lifestyle, fractured ribs, bite marks on its snout, even crushed tail vertebrae, perhaps from a rival tyrannosaur or the heavy clubbed tail of an ankylosaur. These were injuries earned in life-or-death encounters, and they healed. One T-Rex specimen was found with a severely damaged leg, another with a jaw injury consistent with a powerful headbutt. Then, there are the so-called death duets, fossils of predator and prey, preserved side by side, mere meters apart. One particularly captivating case involves a T-Rex and Triceratops, found together in uncanny proximity. The positioning hints at one final violent standoff, paused forever beneath layers of time. Even the wear on T-Rex teeth tells a story. The edges of its serrated, banana-sized teeth often display chipping, rounding, and scoring, evidence of biting through not just muscle, but solid bone. It fed with ferocity, and its teeth, damaged by the force of their own power, became markers of behavior, not just anatomy. Not all bite marks are equal. Some are shallow. Lateral scrapes, marks left after the hunt, not during it. These suggest post-mortem feeding, and speak to T-Rex's pragmatism. When hunger came and meat was found, it didn't matter whether the prey had fallen by its own hand. Survival didn't care for pride. Triceratops, too, tells its own side of the story. Skulls reveal horn damage, blunt trauma, fractures, some healed, some fresh. While many of these injuries came from intraspecies combat, rivals locking horns in dominance rituals, others tell of something more dire: clean punctures, jagged lacerations, patterns that align all too well with a predator's strike. Even how these fossils lie in the ground tells part of the story. Bone beds, sites where multiple individuals perished together, reveal herding patterns. In some cases, groups of juvenile Triceratops are found together, separated from adults. The T-Rex experienced regular violent encounters with fellow members of its species. Evidence indicates that specific bones were attacked by another T-Rex. The reason for these fossils being cannibalized remains unclear because scientists cannot determine if it was from combats gone bad or from starvation. Within the hierarchy of apex predators, the danger of being killed by another remained constant. Modern imaging techniques allow researchers to study bones from the inside without requiring any destruction of the specimens. CT scan imaging shows how bones heal together with their internal fractures and developmental abnormalities. Yet even now, as we uncover more and more from the ground, we must remember, the fossil record is biased. Not every story was preserved. Not every fight was frozen. Not every living being managed to preserve evidence of its existence. The available evidence provides sufficient insight into this matter. Life during the late Cretaceous period existed in a state of balance rather than dominance, not by one king, but by a balance of forces. The planet hosted giants who moved through their domain with caution. Even the most powerful creatures could not count on survival in these conditions. Every bone mark carries the imprint of a specific moment which time itself has written. Additional skeletal remains rest beneath the surface of the Earth. More stories wait. Through their story, we learn about ecosystems and how delicate the balance truly is. We see how life builds itself from cooperation and conflict, from growth and adaptation. We realize that for millions of years, these animals formed complex worlds long before humans could speak their first words. Their time teaches us humility. Because in all our science, in all our achievements, we still live under the same sky, on the same rock, subject to the same fragile thread of continuity. Extinction isn't just a relic of the past. It's a shadow that follows every living species, including our own. The dinosaurs didn't choose their end, and if we're not careful, we may one day follow paths not too different from theirs. But their story also gives us hope. It shows that life is relentless, that in the face of unimaginable odds, nature continues. It adjusts. It tries again. From the ashes of extinction came new worlds and new creatures, some small, some strange, all part of the same grand experiment. And now, as the caretakers of this planet, we are the latest chapter. We build cities, launch satellites, craft tools the dinosaurs never imagined. But for all our progress, we are still animals of Earth, still bound by its rhythms, still depending on balance. The bones of the past tell us more than who lived and died. They tell us what it means to live wisely, to coexist, to plan for the future we cannot yet see. If the dinosaurs left behind one enduring truth, it is this: no creature is genuinely alone in its successor fall. We are all part of a system, a world, a moment in time, and whether we last another million years or vanish tomorrow, what we leave behind matters. Not just in museums, but in the way we treat the world around us. The age of dinosaurs ended, but the age of consequence is ours. And it has only just begun.